Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's tea time. Time to tee it up with Tom and John as they talk with the people driving Orange County, those keeping our community on course. Brought to you, of course, by Stevens, Friedland, and the good folks here at OC Talk Radio. So let's bring in the good guys themselves, Tom and John. Welcome, guys.
Good morning, John.
Good morning, Tom. How are you doing?
Hey, it's a good time in Southern California right now to be a golfer, huh?
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. So we got Ricky Fowler at the top of the leaderboard with who's the other guy?
Shoffley.
Xander Shoffley.
Yeah, who would figure that two guys would go out, shoot 62 on the opening day, the lowest round ever in a major, and two of them did it.
Yeah.
We got
Will O'Neill as our guest. Hi, Will.
Hi, John. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Will.
So Will is currently the mayor pro tem of the great city of Newport Beach, and he was the mayor in the tough days, 2020, dealing with the pandemic.
And, you know what? Will's the mayor of Newport Beach.
Yeah,
okay, let's not kid ourselves. Okay, but
well, that's what we said with Kirk Bauermeister. We said I'm the mayor of Costa Mesa, and he's Mr. Costa Mesa. So at least at minimum, you're Mr. Newport Beach. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing really well. I appreciate that introduction. I did serve in 2020 as mayor, and it was quite a year. But you know, John, you were on council over in Costa Mesa. We worked together pretty well through that, and actually ended up with a joint homeless shelter out of the collaboration you and I forged during that year.
Yeah, we're going strong on that. There's another thing that a lot of people don't know is, remember when we sued Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom and everybody to keep the Diamond Princess patients out of Fairview Developmental Center?
I do.
The first person to call and offer his support, and they did a brief in support of Costa Mesa, was Will O'Neill and the city of Newport Beach. So, really, we've got a great collaboration. And so I appreciate that, Will. And also the friendship. It's great. And that's the basis of the collaboration. So it's wonderful working with you, Will.
Same, John. Same.
Hey, Will, it's interesting to look back at that time when you were the mayor, because it wasn't your traditional year of being a mayor. Part of the great thing about being a mayor is you get out there, you get to go to every dinner, you all these speeches and everything, and you were right smack in the middle of the pandemic, pretty much a lockdown year, but you were exactly the guy that Newport Beach needed, because things turned more, regional and national with Newport Beach, with the ocean, should we have the beaches open and things like that. Do you think you got gypped by the year you ran, and would you look forward to doing it again?
Well, two different answers. No, I don't feel like I got cheated out of that one. You're right. I mean, one of the things that I've been asked to do repeatedly after that year is come in and give speeches about how we handled it. And I do say we, because it was very much collaborative. And the three lessons I ended up taking out of that was the first one, which is, you can try for a position and eventually get it, but you don't get to control the circumstances in which you hold it. And so I think that the circumstances were obviously really difficult for everyone, but we got really fortunate because one of the other lessons is you got to have a great team around you, and Newport has a great team at the top levels. So we had a lot of department heads who had been in the city for quite some time. A lot of them actually were homegrown, and so they worked really well together. And so the other one, the third one that I always talk about is indecision is still a decision. So you got to make decisions. You got to keep moving forward. And man, John, how much do you love being a litigator sometimes when you're on the dais? Because being able to synthesize a large amount of information and kind of keep rolling forward and making the decisions to move forward, you got to do that. So yep. I didn't feel like I got cheated. I just felt like I had the right skill set for a really tough year. And then but if I can, if my colleagues vote to have me be mayor again next year, I would love that. I hear being mayor is fun. So I'd like to experience that at some point.
Yeah, it can be. And, you're absolutely right. I mean, we during that time, it was really interesting, and I'm sure Will had the same experiences. You're trying to make decisions based on information that is imperfect and is changing on a daily basis. But as Will says, you still got to make the decision. And But the other aspect of it during the pandemic is you have to be open to revisiting those decisions when you get new information. And I think that's one of the things that I remember you emphasizing. It's like, well, you get new information and you make a different decision. That's called, being a wise leader, a good decision maker. What's the big deal?
Yeah, I mean that's the old statement. When I get new information, I make new decisions. What do you do with it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting for me to, I feel like today I'm sitting with royalty from both Costa Mesa and Newport Beach. The two guys that, both of you are the key people behind, the operation of the city and things like that, overseeing it. So you guys are sitting up there on the dais, and you gotta sit there and take shots from people that come up to the mic.
Right.
It always seems like when you look around these cities that they have in some cases, like I know another city that I work closely with, there's a small group of very, very vocal people that kind of organize and come in. How difficult is that to be sitting up there and taking shots at the dais when you can't, because people disagree with you, unfairly perhaps, but how difficult is that?
Will you go?
Yeah, so I probably have a kind of a funny perspective on this, which is I actually enjoy a lot of it, and part of the reason I enjoy a lot of it is because you're looking at it and seeing that that's how the First Amendment plays out. You have the right to petition your government, and man, what else? What are you going to be able to do to go petition your state government? You have to fly to Sacramento and hope that there's a hearing going on. If you try to get in front of Congress or in front of the President of the United States, good luck with that. But at the local level, people get to vent their frustration and talk about the ways that they think the city could be improved. And you're right, sometimes they're just off base, but most of the time it's actually pretty fun. I really do enjoy it. I had a colleague one time. We had we had this guy who kept coming in over and over again, and he would kind of say some pretty off the wall stuff. And at one point, a colleague leaned over and said, "Hey, can't we just tell him to stop?" I said, "No, the First Amendment allows for people to petition the government, and we're the government." And so,
right.
I actually really enjoy it. I will say the only times when it's tough is when they're just being personally insulting. And the worst is when they try to bring your family into the discussion. So some people do that just to be nasty. I do not take well to that, but for the most part, I kind of like it because I see the process working, and that's the constitutional system we're supposed to have.
Right, and I agree with you. Everything you said is true, and I think that it's important to have an environment in the city where people feel comfortable coming up and speaking. So, for example, we have a group of people now that speak in Spanish. They're Spanish speaking, and we have a translator. And they get, instead of 3 minutes, they get 5 minutes. And they come in and they petition us, as Will said, for various things. And we listen very carefully, and we make decisions based on that. And that wasn't always true. There was many, many years where nobody would come in and speak Spanish because they were afraid in the city of Costa Mesa. So we've come a long way in creating an environment where people feel comfortable speaking. And if you listen carefully, most people have a nugget that you should really follow up on and you should know about. So it's a great way to get information to help us take action.
It's interesting. You said you give them 5 minutes, and the initial reaction is, well, why should they get 2 minutes more? But it's actually the additional time for the translation.
Right. That's why we do that.
We just want to be clear to people out there. Okay, so Will, you mentioned something real key a few minutes ago. You talked about family. Sunday's Father's Day.
Right.
And I know, Will, you are a big family guy. Pretty much, I mean, if it's not at the top of your list, I know it's it's one or two. Let me put it that way, because I also know you're a guy of great faith. Tell me what Father's Day means to you, both as your relationship with your father, who's been a very successful, probably mentor to you in many ways, and then on the flip side, for your two beautiful kids.
Yeah, Father's Day is amazing for me. I'm really fortunate to still have my dad around. And you're right. My dad's my hero. Has always been that way for me. And I got lucky. I know how incredibly lucky I am on that front, to have been born into a relationship like that. And then with my kids, I love my kids. I've got my kids just finished up 5th grade and 3rd grade, girl and boy. And you're right. There's a lot of time spent with them that. It's interesting. So I'm an attorney. We've already talked about that. Also on the city council, and one of the best things about the local level politics is the ability to involve them in it, and actually model public service for them. And so it's going to be funny next year. So I'm in my 2nd term. 2024 will be my last year on the city council. And when that's over, I think my kids are going to wonder why they're watching parades instead of being in them. I was never in a parade ever. I was never in a parade before I got on city council, and my kids are in 2 a year. And so, anyways, it's pretty fun. But Father's Day is just it's just a nice day to hang out. We just kind of usually chill. I know for Mother's Day it's different. We are running around brunch and everything else. Father's Day is usually pretty relaxed and board games and whatnot. So I'm really fortunate to have married way up, and my kids are a reflection of that. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I heard today a comedian was saying that the 2 most popular holidays in the United States are Christmas and Mother's Day, and Father's Day is the 20th most popular. And he says, I didn't even know there were 18 other holidays. But it's true. I mean, it's not like anybody's like making a ton of reservations or anything like that. So it's good that we're talking about it now. So Tom, you wrote a great story in Stu News about your biological father who died at age 29. You barely got to know him, but then your stepfather was a great influence on. So tell that story.
Well, okay, so when I was 6 years old, I remember waking up early one morning, and something was going on in my house, and I didn't realize it at the time, but my father, because of a medical condition, was in the process of passing, and he was very much struggling, and I thought he was actually playing a game with me. And the next thing, so I was kind of making this call back and forth to him from the other end of the house. And I remember all of a sudden my aunt and uncle, they lived across the street. My aunt came running in, grabbed me, woke my brother up next, he was in the bed next to me, and my sister in the next room, took us across the street to their house. And, he passed away. And, sad stuff. It did something to me because I have no recollection of him ever being alive. That's the last time I can remember that morning of any life with him.
Wow.
So it was pretty impactful. And it was interesting because my brother, as a 7-year-old, knew everything that was going on. My sister, who was a 4-year-old, had no clue. And I knew something was going on, but I couldn't figure it out.
And your mom was pregnant, right?
And my mom was pregnant with her 4th. And so the great news about that is a month before my father passed away, he came home and said, I met the nicest guy at work today. He's recently divorced. His name's Bill Johnson. We should have him over for dinner some night. And lo and behold, we had him over for dinner, and he never left.
Yeah.
He just happened to be the most wonderful dad I could have ever had. And so people, as you go through life and you kind of tell that story, they go, oh, gosh, that's so sad that your father died. It's like, wait. You gotta, it is sad, but you got to see the other side of it. I got my dad. My dad added a 5th kid to it. With my original father, we would have moved across country and probably been involved in Washington politics.
Okay.
He was very, very high up in Ford Motor Company at a very young age, and he, with the management of Ford Motor Company, had connections to D.C., I probably would have moved there, probably would have met somebody else, I would have never had my daughter. So you start looking at all that stuff, and you realize, God really does have a plan when it really comes down to it.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yes, and I have zero regrets.
Yeah.
So it turned out well.
Yeah, that's good. And then, so how did it affect you as a father?
My daughter grew up well in spite of me. No. Actually, both of you know my daughter.
Yeah.
One of the things about my daughter is, I did go through a challenge at the kind of the middle of my daughter's childhood, where the family was going to break apart.
Uh-huh.
One of the parents wanted a divorce, wasn't me, and so the thing was thrown out there. One of us has to move out, and I said, well, it's not going to be me. I want to see her grow up, and so I became kind of like the courtship of Eddie's father. Or Eddie's was it courtship of Eddie's father?
Bill Bixby.
Yeah, and so I got to live. Ashley and I were in this house together.
Yeah,
and gosh, it's incredible. And Lana, who was the other party there, is my business partner today. The best friends I have in life, and so everything's good.
Yeah.
But what an incredible run my daughter and I are. Just tremendous. We have this tremendously close relationship. She's in Aspen this week at the Wine and Food Festival up there. She called me 2 nights ago and said, "Dad, you got to fly up." And I'm thinking, like, really?
Are you going?
No.
Yeah.
No. I thought about it long and hard, but I knew if I submitted my my expenses to the city through Will, I'd probably get rejected.
Well, the cool thing about it, in particular, Tom's daughter that we're talking about right now, amazing, love her, and she, we stole her from visit Laguna Beach, moved her up to visit Newport Beach, so she gets to go out and talk a lot about the great things about Newport, try to attract people here, and I'll tell you right now, especially with the summer weather that we've got, which is not so much summer and a lot of June gloom. A lot of our tourist-facing businesses are having a tougher summer than normal, and so we need folks like Ashley in particular right now.
So weather does not fall under the mayor pro tem, right? You're not the one in charge of that.
No, that's the Chamber of Commerce.
No, that's the Chamber of Commerce.
That's Steve Rosansky.
I got to jump back to a story you said a minute ago, Will. Though you talked about, your kids saying, "How come we're watching the parade rather than being in it?" I remember, and I think between yourself, John, and me, we could probably talk about, all the great things we've been invited to over the years and been very fortunate in our connections one way or the other to get to some of those things. And I remember always going to a baseball game, for example, an Angel game or whatever. I'd be sitting up in a box.
Yeah.
And if you wanted a soft drink or a hot dog or something, you just walked to the back of the box, you grabbed one. They kept them fresh and things like that. Grab the popcorn, whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
And so one day we're sitting at home. So that's how I used to go to everything. So one day I'm sitting at home and I said, and my daughter played softball. And I said, "Ashley, you want to go? Ken Griffey Jr. is going to be playing the Angels tonight. You want to go to the game?" She goes, "Oh yeah, it'd be great." So I got tickets down the right field line. So she loved Ken Griffey Jr. So we go to the game and we go to our seats and we sit down there and she looks at me and she says, "What are we doing down here?"
Yeah.
And I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, "I want to sit up there in that box."
In the suite,
and
right.
It was funny. I was no longer at the Times.
Yeah.
And, it was just kind of one of those funny things.
Well, you get your perks. See, I got to pay for my own seats. We got to go to a game. We've got a share of season seats at the Angel game. So we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Did you read that thing in the paper, though, about how the Angels, city of Anaheim gets a ton of, as you might imagine, a ton of Angel tickets. And so they were being criticized for that. And I was like, well, how come I never get invited to the Angel box?
Yeah.
Where's Ashley Aiken in my life? I need to get to an Angel game. So hey, you want to hear about my father?
Yes, talk about your father.
I thought you'd never ask Tom.
Yes, no,
I was coming. There and talk about.
I was coming there, and then when we get done with you, we could talk about Paul's father. But go ahead.
Hey, listen, so my father was a great influence on me, but it was different. It's like he was a worker. In a union, he worked for a water company for 40 years, and so he didn't have kind of the office life or the lawyer life or anything like that, but he was super supportive, just rained love on me. And the thing I always remember about my dad is, so my dad used to love the Lakers. We used to watch the Laker game all the time. He loved Chicky Baby. Jerry West was his hero. And so we would sit, that was the thing kind of we bonded watching the Laker game. He didn't like baseball. He never liked baseball. But when I got into Little League, he took a team. He took a Little League team. And not knowing anything, he brought my brother-in-law in who knew a lot about baseball. And he continued to coach Little League for 6 years. I still have people on my Facebook who come back to me and say he was the best Little League coach I ever had. Not because of anything he taught him, but the way he treated the kids.
Yeah.
And so he taught me this thing, because years later, fast forward, I'm about 35 years old. I take my first T-ball team. And I say, Dad, what advice do you have? And he said, focus on the kids that are having the most trouble. They're struggling. There might be, tinier kids or kids. He said the dorky kids is what he said. And he says, if you can bring them around.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. If you can bring those kids around, you're going to have a team that's good from top to bottom, and those kids will have a good time and they'll play the next year. So that became kind of my approach to coaching. And it was great. I mean, I had some great teams, but my kids would always come back and play the next year. I coached for 18 years. And so I thought, well, okay, that's a good approach also to governing, is if you focus on the people who need you the most, in our case, like with Will talking about the homeless, the people that are vulnerable, the people that need, rent assistance, that are on the verge of eviction. If you focus on the people in your city that are struggling, you're going to have a stronger city from top to bottom. Mm-hmm. So I basically applied that lesson, a Little League lesson, to governing in Costa Mesa.
That's great.
And so, and he was just a terrific guy. And I'm just like you. It's like I don't know. My kids are great. The last one just graduated. The youngest one graduated from college last weekend, and mostly because of the influence of their mother. I just tried to stay.
Come on.
I tried to stay out of the way as best I could.
Well, you got to,
John, you've been really good about going to your Little League opening days, and you're really supporting the local Little League too. I mean, I see that all the time. So I'll affirm you on that one. And actually, I got a quick question for you. If, speaking of the Angels, let's say someone came along and said, "Hey, John Stevens, you're mayor of Costa Mesa. You want to throw out the first pitch to an Angels game?" What are you saying to that? Because
I definitely do it, but
I'm just missing the entire plate.
Yeah, no, I would never do a Baba Booey and throw it. I throw out the first pitch all the time, and I take great pride in it to throw a strike and throw it on target. I never go to the rubber. There's a way to do it. You just go to the edge of the cut. So if I was going to
John goes up to home plate and hands the ball to the catcher.
I would definitely practice. But hey, so we're talking about Little League. I got to tell you guys something. So Costa Mesa Little League, the National American League merged. Okay.
Right.
For years, we used to just get beat in District 62 by Huntington Beach. I just saw on Instagram last night that in the Tournament of Champions that they do, these are the best teams in each division. At the major division level, the two teams that are in the championship are the number 1 team from Costa Mesa and the number 2 team from Costa Mesa. So Costa Mesa is playing tomorrow for the championship, and either the Costa Mesa Angels or the Costa Mesa Dodgers are going to win that.
Wow, that's super.
And so will we do, and I know you guys do too, is bring championship teams into the city council and honor them. So I'm looking forward to seeing those kids.
Yeah, we actually just did that this past week at the city council level. We had the first Newport Harbor High School, and so Newport Harbor High School shares Costa Mesa and Newport kids. So that's a high school that we get to split. We just got the first state champion in the history of Newport Harbor High School wrestling program. Was a young woman who she's awesome. And so anyway, we were able to honor her. We had the Newport Harbor High School volleyball team. It's the first time where I took a picture in the council chambers and actually didn't get to stand in the back row.
Yeah.
They were all taller than I was. Anyway,
Right.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I love honoring the young folks who come in. It just kind of reminds you of how impressive the generation coming up is going to be.
Yeah, we really do share Newport Harbor, so we had those same volleyball players in. So it's quite something. They're good, and they were back-to-back CIF champions, which has never happened at Newport Harbor. So, yeah, that's great.
Paul, do you want to jump in?
I did here. I'm amazed you guys are talking to each other. I always assumed there was much more competition between cities here. Do you guys get along and do you cooperate? Do you work together? You're neighboring cities, very different cities, and you're all talking like big buddies here.
Well, I was just Will and I collaborated from the very beginning since we both got elected the same year. But he just introduced me to the mayor of Newport Beach, and we had a great lunch the other day, Noah Blom, at his restaurant Arc. And one other thing I said to him, I go, one of the things about Newport Beach is to get into Newport Beach, for most people, they have to drive through Costa Mesa. To get out, they have to drive out of Costa Mesa. So yeah, we're definitely connected. We do a lot of collaboration, and they're very different cities. I mean,
very different cities.
There's no competition in the sense that, we don't have an ocean, and they don't have South Coast Plaza, but then they've got, the Fashion Island, which, by the way, a lot of people don't know this. Do you know that Fashion Island and South Coast Plaza opened the same year? Tom, you know what year that was?
It was 1967.
You got it. You got it. Right on the nose.
Oh, come on. That was a guess. I knew it was about then.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, I want to jump back because we were talking about sports. And you know what? Newport Beach is at the top of the sports world. People might not know that, but in this week alone, a couple of major things that have happened to connect Newport Beach. Will, you want to talk about hockey first of all?
Oh, yeah. So we've got Eagle 4 Partners. They're the ones who own the Newport Beach Country Club. If you played there, they also have Balboa Bay Resort, and they're doing a lot more than that. But they some of the folks who own that are also pretty significant limited partners in the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And so some of them, 3 of them are holding up the trophy. I mean, it's
Stanley Cup time.
Are they bringing it into OC Talk Radio here? We bring it into the show here next week?
It's more likely to end up at the Balboa Bay Resort than to do it on remote. But actually, the Stanley Cup has made its appearance in Newport Beach pretty regularly. When the Kings win it, when the Ducks win it, they'll end up at they all get to have it for about a day, and there's a pretty good tradition of drinking out of it.
Yep.
And I will tell you, there have been many people who have drank out of that at a bar in Newport. So anyway.
Have you ever had the pleasure to do that?
I have not, but if this one comes into town, I can guarantee, and I have the opportunity, 100% going to take advantage of that.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's a second one. You know what the other one is right now?
Ooh, I wish I did.
Well, okay, so we got the U.S. Open going on up in at Los Angeles Country Club, and Ricky Fowler set a tournament record yesterday, a major record, shooting 62. And Ricky's from Temecula, but he married into Newport Beach.
That's true.
Into the Stockey family.
Yes, right.
And,
that's right.
And Allison Stockey is his wife, former pole vaulter at...
Yeah, for Cal.
Yeah, and Newport Harbor. And it's kind of cool that, it's not... Neither of those things, whether it's the Pickup family or Allison Stockey, none of them are going to be in the headlines like, ooh, Newport Beach connected, here. But it is kind of cool that living in Newport Beach, living in this area, you're walking around bumping elbows with those kind of people in our town.
Right. And, so next month, the Chargers are having their training camp, of course, in Costa Mesa. And Will, your turn.
Oh,
what do you? Are the Rams?
Yeah, most of the Chargers live in Newport Beach, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say the Rams come to Newport Beach, stay at the Vea Hotel, and go over and play at UCI. And I just talked with Gary Sherwin the other day, and just FYI, not to outdo anybody, as far as sports go here, but. The New Orleans Saints are expected to come into Newport Beach also to battle some preseason stuff with the Rams. So anyway,
they're doing a scrimmage then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Anyway, talk about your Chargers.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's like you're interrupted my flow. Well, listen. So their opening day. So they go to Jack Hammett's Sports Park, which is right on Fairview, right next to Costa Mesa High School, and we've had them there since 2017, and they also are headquartered there. So this year could be their last year in Costa Mesa because they're building their training facility in El Segundo. So their training facility opens. The opening day is July 27th.
So just a quick question, then we're going to wrap it up. What is having either the Rams in Newport Beach or the Chargers in Costa Mesa, what does that do for the community? Will, why don't you fire off on that one first?
Yeah, I mean, this is for Newport. First off, I actually really love having the Rams around. They're a really professional organization, and so having them there obviously is great for our hotel. And so, you start talking to a city council member, they're going to start thinking immediately of some of the fiscal impact of this. So I love having the what we call a transient occupancy tax, which is kind of known as the hotel bed tax. And then we also have sales tax generated because folks come in and they're right over near Fashion Island there, and they spend money. It's great. And then just having the cachet of having a professional sports team choosing to stay there is great. And then actually, I was kind of joking about the Chargers, but the truth is we do have Rams and Chargers players and whatnot who live in Newport. And part of the reason that happens is because they stay there briefly, they look around, they realize, man, I kind of want to live here in the off season, and they tend to do that. We also, I'll finish this real quick. We have the Hogue Classic, and we actually getting professional golfers who end up having second or third homes in Newport as a result of that tournament as well. So it works out really well for us in the long haul.
Yeah, cool stuff. John, what if you lost the Chargers? What kind of negative impact would that have?
Well, we're going to lose the Chargers. We always knew that because we always knew that they were going to eventually move up closer to SoFi. So, but it's been a great relationship with them. So, as Will said, we do get a lot of hotel traffic. The Chargers stay at the West and South Coast Plaza during the training camp, so that's great. And we get a lot of visitors every single day I think it's about 3 weeks. And so those visitors, they come to Costa Mesa, they enjoy the Chargers, and then they might go, it's around fair time, so they can go to the fair, they can go to some of our restaurants. It just exposes people from all over. People come from all over the place outside of Orange County to go to that Chargers training camp. And then the Chargers are always really gracious. They give us a gift that we can put in City Hall, and so if you walk into City Hall, one of the first things you'll see is a Chargers helmet. So go Chargers. This year, I know you get the cup in Newport Beach.
Well, they could also bring their Super Bowl trophy from the Rams.
We want to see the Pete Rozelle trophy in Costa Mesa.
Okay, Will, parting shots for Father's Day. Anything you want to throw out there to your constituents?
Yeah, enjoy yourselves. I mentioned earlier that a lot of our local businesses just aren't hitting their targets because of the weather. So really encourage folks, get out there, support your local business, buy local if you're going to buy a gift. And if you're going to go out for a meal, make sure you're taking care of folks who take care of our community year round. So I just encourage folks, shop local, stay local, and support our local community.
Okay, so one last thing I want to say is, and you should come here too, Will, July 3rd at the Orange County Fairgrounds at 5 o'clock. We're having a big blowout event. We're going to have 10,000 people, Tijuana dogs, great fireworks. July 3rd, mark your calendar. It's going to be a great time.
Great.
That's awesome.
Hey, you know what? It has really been a pleasure to sit down with, I sit down with John all the time on doing this stuff, but Will, it's so great to have you in. You're doing a wonderful job in Newport Beach. The city is, kind of on fast forward. It's just everything's going so well, and that's a huge credit to you. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy those kids. You've got cute kids. Enjoy them. It goes quick, I can tell you, as I'm now experiencing 3 young grandchildren. So make sure you guys both have a great Father's Day.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. And thanks for guesting, Will. Thanks for all your collaboration and friendship.
And let's do a
Thanks,
shout
man.
out to our sponsor.
Thank you.
Who sponsored this show today?
Stevens Friedland LLP in Costa Mesa, business trial lawyers, and also Stu News.
There you go.
Good news.
Got a couple of them here. All right, thanks for joining us here. See you next time on Tee It Up with Tom and John. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Field Applied Innovation Center.